Hey everyone, it's Martin and today we're going to check out this very futuristic looking electric scooter that almost replaced my most favorite scooter until now, the Xiaomi M365. So, how's this one performing? Let's find out. So the scooter comes in two variants. You have a single engine and you have a dual engine or dual motors. And I've got the dual motor versions over here. And to go quickly over the specifications, this electric scooter is 11 kilograms. Has a top speed of 25 kilometers per hour and the range is, on paper always, 25 kilometers as well. It's made from aluminum together with carbon fiber and the battery is 3200 mAh. The single motor version has a front motor which is 250 watts, while the dual motor version has a 200 watts front motor and a 250 watts rear motor. Now that results in a maximum torque of 28.8 compared to the 16 Newton meter from the single engine, as well as the incline rate which is 6 degrees for the single one compared to 15 for the dual motor. Before we continue, I would like to ask you to subscribe to the channel and also don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified whenever there's a new video posted. And now that we have that out of the way, in terms of design, I really like this futuristic and smooth look. It's also super easy to fold. You just push down the knob and it locks in place. And the scooter is therefore super easy to bring along in the car or in the train, for example, for your last mile commute. Now, besides the folding and its weight, it's also pretty easy to carry it around, and because of the tube or the stem that's made from carbon fiber, it feels indeed lightweighted and very strong at the same time. Now, I find the tube really smooth looking, but the handlebar on top looks even better. The handlebar is made from magnesium alloy and we find there the dashboard, you have the throttle, you have the brake, the horn, the riding mode and an LED headlight with no visible wires. So the readability of the dashboard in bright sunlight is good and most important information is displayed. You've got the light, the speed, the distance traveled, the battery, the riding mode and in which mode you are, the dual motor or the single engine motor. Now if you press the button for 3 seconds, you power on the scooter, and if you press it one more, you will turn on the headlights, and if you press it twice, you will alter between single and dual motor mode. And in case you're using miles per hour, when you hold down both the horn and the riding mode for 2 seconds, you will switch. Now let's start by taking a closer look at those tires, because those are not your usual tires. They are 7.5 inch and they are pretty comfortable to ride on because of the air pockets spread throughout the wheel and therefore they act as some sort of a front and rear suspension system, but it doesn't absorb as much shocks as a real suspension system. Now, the lack of the suspension does make it a little bit more of a bumpy ride, despite a clever air pocket design, but it comes quite close enough to air tires. Now, one point that I would really like to highlight if you're gonna start riding this for the very first time, the tires over here are really flat. So when you take your very first turn, you will feel that it feels a little bit scary or something because there's no round edge and therefore you feel like pushed to one of the sides. It feels unbalanced, but the moment you start riding more, the tires, they degrade a little bit over time, but they become a little bit more round and therefore they become more comfortable to ride on. Braking can be done via the lever on the handlebar or with your foot on the rear mudguard. I will advise you to do so only in an emergency because it brakes by itself really strong on the engine already and else you will create some sort of a flat spot on the rear tire which is not very comfortable to ride on afterwards. So regarding the speed and mileage or the range, it comes pretty close indeed to 25 kilometers per hour. But it has so many variables and it depends on a lot of factors. For example, the weight of the person riding it, the weather conditions, the road conditions, and on paper it does easily reach 25 kilometers per hour. But if I'm riding on it on asphalt and the weather conditions are actually pretty nice, it usually hangs around 23-24. In terms of mileage, they say that the scooter has a range of 25 kilometers, but for riding mode 3, which I'm driving in all the time, I'd rather get 12 to 14 kilometers, which is a very similar score as what I get with my Xiaomi scooter. So with what I've mentioned before, the 12 to 14 kilometers, I've been testing this for multiple days because I go from my home to the train station and from the train station to my actual workplace, and that is around 8 kilometers in total. And if I come home, I have around 40% left, which is pretty easy to calculate then, that I have around 13 to 14 kilometers left if I just would ride all the way till 0. But it gives a good indication that no matter the conditions, I'm always around 40%, and I think that is pretty reasonable and very comparable with the Xiaomi 𝙤𝙩𝙗𝙨 electric scooter as well. So in terms of battery, I'm pretty okay with it. Now just keep in mind that when you're going to charge the battery when it's empty, it will take around 5 hours. And that is of course pretty long, so in case you've been riding a lot and you come somewhere and you can only stay there for like a couple hours, just keep in mind that it does not support any kind of fast charging and that it takes a pretty long time to charge. So keep that in mind, and I personally advise you to just overcharge it during the night, or charge it during the night, so the next morning you can just grab your scooter and have a full battery ready. Now regarding the incline rate, I live in the flattest country on earth, Holland, so it's very difficult for me to check the incline rate. But what I can share with you is that, for example, we have a huge bridge over here and it easily rides the bridge. However, I have to say you can't ride it with 25 kilometers per hour, but the incline rate is pretty steep and you'll get stuck around 20 to 22 kilometers per hour, which is still impressive. So besides the fact that these solid tires are super interesting, there are a couple of other things that you have to take into consideration. I've been riding on scooters with cruise control and that is something I'm really missing. Another thing that I'm missing is the fact that, for example, the Xiaomi scooter has an application which updates the firmware often for an improved battery life, but also it shows you data regarding your current status of the battery. In terms of safety, the scooter has a great and bright headlight as well as a taillight that is always on and it will blink if you brake. So there are a reasonable amount of reflector stickers, and that horn is, well, awkward. So to conclude, indeed, it's a very good looking electric scooter. The build quality is great and the appearance is just spot on. It has like this futuristic look and I really like that. However, the price is also really steep, and if you compare to, for example, the Xiaomi 𝙤𝙤𝙗𝙦 M365 electric scooter, which is like half the price, then I'm questioning like, is it worth it? Well, if you're all about the looks, then kind of yes. Also, if you have the preference for solid tires or if you live in a hilly neighborhood, then along with the thick wallet, it is an interesting scooter to consider. However, if you live in Holland or in another country with very good roads with almost no hills, I find it difficult to recommend this one, especially because of its price. If you go for the single engine one, the price is still pretty steep, and in China you can get a lot of electric scooters for half the price that does a very similar job, but you miss out on the looks. So if you decide to purchase the scooter, and I will leave a link in the video's description to both models, then you receive it in this huge box. Now open it, and inside there's a short explanation on how to get it easily out of the box. Now before we get the scooter out of the box, we have this small container that has a smaller box inside with a quick start guide in English. Now below that there's a charger, which in my case an EU power cable, there's a hex key, and last but not least we have the handlebar. Now we have to install it ourselves, and that is pretty easy to do. Now it's time to take the scooter out of the box. You can put it on the kickstand and connect the power cables to each other. You have to install the screws and we're ready to ride the scooter. Once again, I really do like the looks of this scooter. It's really futuristic, it does what it advertises, and of course you need to have a thick wallet for this one. But if you like the looks and you want to have something different than all the standard scooters out there, this is definitely one that you can pick up. The tires are of course a personal thing and it totally depends on you. So let me know in the comment section down below, are you a fan of the solid tires or more for the air tires? Thank you so much for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to give the video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and then I hope to see all of you in the next one.